What is horsemanship? At its most basic, it may refer to the capacity to simply handle horses, to lead a 1,200-pound animal on the ground or on its back without getting hurt and without hurting them. Some would define it as the ability to read a horse, to notice behavioral changes, an ear pinned differently, a change in posture or breathing to signal fear, pain, or resistance. Some scholars describe it as a relationship, a process where an individual and a horse develop a shared language, where they are mutually comprehensible to each other. Horses are exceptionally strong, temperamental animals that humans have historically domesticated for transportation, labor, and entertainment. Horsemanship involves a largely tacit expertise that encompasses technical skills and nonverbal communication. What does horsemanship look like when it becomes the invisible backbone of a multi-billion-dollar industry? You are currently watching an event commonly dubbed the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. This is the Kentucky Derby, one of the most famous and elite horse races in the world. Audiences from around the globe dressed in fashionable attire come to Churchill Downs to celebrate the traditions of thoroughbred racing and watch these horses compete. My name is Caroline Elliott, and I was raised in Louisville, where Churchill Downs is a premier tourist attraction and a source of local pride. These 2 minutes have occurred every year since 1875, when Churchill Downs first opened its doors. Live racing encompasses a legacy shaped by generations of cultural celebration and spectatorship. The Kentucky Derby attracts upwards of 150,000 spectators every year. If we turn our attention beyond this excitement and back to the horse, it will take us to a workforce that is virtually invisible to audiences in the grandstands. There are approximately 1,000 individuals or backside workers who caretake the horses daily at Churchill Downs, 80% of whom are Latin American immigrants. The backside workforce consists of various jobs responsible for daily grooming, walking, feeding, and exercising of racehorses. During racing seasons, around 1,400 horses live on the backside, as well as 600 workers who live in rooms atop stables, vacant offices, or in dormitory buildings. John, a backside worker, mentioned that I see people who come to the races and I meet people who don't know anything about horses, and they don't understand how we can be working or living on the backside. Backside work is frequently characterized as low-status labor with limited regulation. Existing literature explores racial work hierarchies within the racing industry, limited movement into more lucrative and socially valuable jobs, as well as low wages, dangerous work conditions, and little access to health care. On the backside, characterizations of dirty work and perceived simplicity largely obscure the complexities of working in a multi-species environment. Hernandez Romero comments on the invisibility found in California agricultural labor, positing that the broad depiction of agricultural labor as unskilled has diminished attention to the skills and abilities needed to do these tasks, and the process of acquiring them. Backside work involves exceptional skills in horsemanship that often remain unrecognized. Through the Lemelson Anthropological Honors Program, I spent the summer of 2025 conducting ethnographic fieldwork on the backside of Churchill Downs. I aim to understand the experiences of backside workers in developing horsemanship expertise. Trainers generally collect 10% of a horse's winnings, receiving public praise and financial recognition for racehorse production and performance. However, this narrative seems to disregard the specialized contributions of individuals whom trainers hire for day-to-day caretaking. Gregory, a horse trainer, mentioned that I take feedback with what's going on with the horse, what the exercise rider may be feeling on top of the horse, how he's responding to traffic, how he's responding to his handling. The grooms, when they get in there, they're giving me information. Feedback on any heat in the legs, swelling, sensitivity to their hooves, or any abrasions on them anywhere. So there's a lot of input from backside workers. From grooms, hot walkers, exercise riders, all of them. Leo immigrated to the United States from Guerrero, Mexico with his parents and siblings at age 15 to become a racehorse caretaker. His first boss and coworkers taught him the ins and outs of working with horses, technical skills like grooming and later exercise riding, complemented with knowledge and behavioral predictors of health and readiness like signs of exhaustion and sickness. Leo and I met for lunch together in June, and he began teaching me about what this work looks like in practice.
The main thing is that you got to know the animals. They can be easy to get hurt in there if you don't know what you're doing. It's a process that you go through that you got to know the animals and they get to know you. It's a band that you make with them. You trust them and they trust you. The problem is, like, when you work with these animals they weigh 1,200 pounds, and you have to be 100% concentrated in what you're doing, because in the blink of an eye you can get hurt. The animals, they need a lot of respect, and they can see you when you're afraid, when you're scared, or when you approach to them. It's like, oh, this guy don't know nothing. This person don't know nothing. I can take advantage. It's like humans.
In our conversation, Leo kept coming back to two threads: danger and communication. On average, humans only weigh 10 to 15% of a horse's weight. Working with these animals every day involves coping with unpredictable behavior while simultaneously meeting occupational expectations of efficiency. Leo frames this danger as something that can be avoided through a sort of communication, involving a relational component of trusting a horse and the horse trusting you. He mentioned that they can sense when a person is afraid when you approach them. Leo even describes a hypothetical dialogue with the horse, speaking from the horse's perspective when he says, "I can take advantage." Situating the horse as an active participant in his interactions, or in other words, making the horse a part of a conversation, speaks to Leo's skills in nonverbal communication. Brandt theorizes that because horses rely on their bodies to transmit and receive information, they are highly skilled at reading and using body language. In turn, humans develop a similar heightened awareness about their body language, and are careful to think about messages they are conveying or intend to convey to the horse by way of their bodies. Multi-species interactions have been found to be transformative for animals and humans. The way Leo speaks about his interactions is particularly interesting because they occur in a workplace setting. Within the backdrop of these expectations and wanting to keep himself safe, learning how to communicate with horses is a necessary skill. Richard discusses that not only do equine workers have to carry out myriad tasks that, if done wrong, could harm a horse or put other humans at risk, they must also be able to read the horses' bodies for subtle cues concerning their physical and mental well-being. Workers' specialized expertise remains largely unrecognized outside of the racing industry. Although trainers are more formally recognized for a horse's success, they also rely heavily on their employees as a frontline with respect to racehorse health and readiness. Within this backdrop of structural invisibility, how is expertise legitimized? Answering this question requires a closer look at how individuals develop expertise in the first place. Entry-level positions require no formal education or previous experiences in horsemanship. Gregory mentioned that he instead relies on in-house instruction for new workers. He elaborated that, "I've had fathers and sons come in and start, where their dad would start mentoring them and teaching them about everything, some newer ones getting taught by older ones." Thomas, another trainer I spoke to, mentioned that word of mouth functions as his primary form of recruitment. Learning how to work with horses occurs on the job through informal coworker mentorships, and for many, their entry into the racing industry was mediated through a prior social tie. These characteristics resonate with broader patterns found in immigrant labor niches, where social networks often function as mechanisms for recruitment, job placement, and workplace learning. For Robert, he came to the United States from Mexico when his brother and father-in-law got him a position grooming horses. He credited his brother-in-law in mentoring him because he had no previous experience working with horses. Daniel came to California from Guatemala when his close friend recruited him into the industry and showed him the ropes of backside work. Leo emigrated from Mexico with his family, learning about opportunities in the racing industry from his parents. As someone who has now been involved in the racing industry for several decades, Leo joked that he has been a mentor to new employees millions of times. Both employee recruitment and expertise development operate through informal, socially mediated channels as opposed to formal certification. The backside reflects a dependence on these processes that operate outside of public recognition, giving backside work layers of precarity within this backdrop of structural invisibility and lack of formalized standards. Unrecognized expertise sustains the daily functioning of the racing industry. This is becoming an increasingly intimidating fact in today's political climate. Journal articles have discussed how recent immigration and customs enforcement raids mark a precarious time, not only for workers, but for Churchill Downs, a billion-dollar corporation that relies on this expertise. This is what sustained attention to the backside workforce reveals. Not the lack of expertise, but a systematic failure to recognize it. And this failure is not unique to horse racing. It is what happens when we decide who is worth looking at more closely, or not.